I got this great idea. I want to call him Spider-Man, and he's a teenager. So I gave him the idea, and he said, Stan, that is the worst idea I have ever heard. I always had the feeling that the other comic books, they had good stories, good artwork, everything was fine, but there was a detachment. Years ago, I used to feel somewhat embarrassed that I was writing comics. It is such fun creating characters, writing stories, even doing interviews, even though I can't hear most of what the guy says to me. Will you shut up? Can't you explain anything in a simple way? And everybody thought I was crazy. That book sold better than most of the others in that period.
Do you have a specific target audience?
Oh, just anybody who can read, anybody who's literate. People want entertainment. People want adventure stories. We suddenly began to realize, hey, we've got fans. We had never had fans before. Oh, man. I had done the Fantastic Four and the X-Men, and my publisher said, hey, they're doing well, do another one. So I came up with Spider-Man, and I said to him, I got this great idea. I want to call him Spider-Man, and he's a teenager. So I gave him the idea, and he said, Stan, that is the worst idea I have ever heard. He said, first of all, people hate spiders. You can't call a hero Spider-Man. Secondly, he said, he can't be a teenager. Teenagers are only sidekicks. And finally, he can't have personal problems. Don't you know what a superhero is? So he wouldn't let me do it. One day we had a book we were going to kill called Amazing Fantasy. When you're going to do the last issue, nobody cares what you put in it. Just to get it out of my system, I put Spider-Man in the book, and we sold it. And it was a bestseller. So my publisher called me in a couple weeks later and said, Stan, you remember that character, Spider-Man, that you and I liked so much? Why don't you do a series of it? And that's how Spidey was born. I tried to inject a feeling of warmth in all the books. I always had the feeling that the other comic books, they had good stories, good artwork, everything was fine, but there was a detachment. Even in their letters pages, and they had very few. We were the ones who really made letters pages popular, but occasionally they'd run a letters page and it would be like this. Dear Editor, I read your story and I liked it, signed Charles Smith. And the answer would be, Dear Charles, thank you very much, the editor. Well, I decided to run letters pages, but I wanted to make them friendly. I wanted the kids to feel a part of Marvel. So even if somebody wrote a letter that said, Dear Editor to me, when I printed it, I wrote, Dear Stan. I changed the word editor to Stan. And when I answered the letter, instead of saying, Dear Charles, I'd say something like, hey, thanks a lot, Charlie, you know. And I tried to keep the tone friendly, as if I'm a guy they know and we're just talking together. And after a while, it became very natural. And after a while, all the letters, hey, Stan, I loved your story. Hey, Stan, I hated your story, whatever it was. But it was like they knew me and I knew them. I'd like to think of myself as an entertainer. I feel if I can entertain people in any way, it's very gratifying, because it's a funny thing. Years ago, I used to feel somewhat embarrassed that I was writing comics. I felt there are men building bridges and working in laboratories on cures for illness and doing real things, and I'm writing these comic books. But over the years, I've learned how much joy these comic books have brought to people. And I began to realize that entertainment is very important in people's lives. Most people, almost everybody, have lives that have problems and troubles and things to worry about. And if you can entertain somebody, take his or her mind off the things that would normally be bothering them, that's a good thing to do. So I like to think of myself as an entertainer, somebody who offers a little entertainment to people in whatever form it may be. Mostly, in my case, it had been comic books. I'm doing what I enjoy doing. It's like other men like to play golf, so they play golf every chance they can. So you don't say to them, how come you're playing golf today? You played last week. It was the same with me. To me, it is such fun creating characters, writing stories, even doing interviews, even though I can't hear most of what the guy says to me. But it's an exciting life, and when you do something that you know the fans seem to enjoy, that gives you such satisfaction, you don't want to stop. If you do a good movie, a good television series, anything good, you'll get the audience. There's never a chance to worry. People want entertainment. People want adventure stories. They just want them to be good. I can tell you exactly when Timely Comics became Marvel. Actually, from Timely, they had a lot of other names in the interim. I don't remember all of them, but the last name they had before they became Marvel was Atlas Comics. And after we did the Fantastic Four, and we did the Hulk, Spiderman, the X-Men, so forth, we suddenly began to realize, hey, we've got fans. We had never had fans before. We had never gotten fan mail before. But all of a sudden, with the start of our new superheroes, we got real letters. I like this, I don't like this, you did a great job on this. So I decided we ought to change the name of the company, get something better than Atlas. And the very first book that Martin Goodman had ever published, even before I came to work there, was called Marvel Comics. So I figured Marvel's a great word. And also, there's so much you could do with it. You could make up slogans and mottos. So I decided I would treat Marvel like a big advertising campaign. And I made up slogans like, make mine Marvel, Marvel marches on, welcome to the Marvel age of comics, things like that. And I came up with a lot of catchphrases. I would sign all the things I wrote with "Nuff said" or "Hang loose" or "Face front." But I noticed that the competition was starting to use those expressions too. So I figured I've got to get something that they won't copy. And I tried to think of something A, they wouldn't know how to spell, and B, they wouldn't know what it means. And that's why I came up with the word Excelsior.